Dear students, welcome to our last discussion on the topic of random networks, and in this video we will compare where real world systems fall in the context of random network theory. And we will look into examples of a few characteristic networks like internet, scientific collaboration network and protein interaction network, and try to compare their properties with the networks that can be generated from random graph theory or random network theory using similar parameters. Now if you recall, we learned that we can approximate the degree distribution of random graph, which we also call as ER networks or ER graphs, using Poisson process. And what Poisson process basically mean, that if you know the parameter of Poisson process lambda, your mean would be equal to lambda, and your standard deviation would be also just function of lambda, which is lambda raised to power 1 by 2, or we can say that variance is equal to lambda. Now the one of the key characteristics of Poisson process is that it have upper and lower degree cutoffs for a given parameter theta. What this upper and lower degree cutoff means? It means that if you know certain parameter, you can also estimate what with very high probability that what is the maximum k possible and the minimum k possible for that network. For some, we what we do is that for real world networks we measure their average degree and try to fit a Poisson distribution and see their actual probability distribution by counting number of nodes of degree k divided by total number of nodes, and it gives us pk, and we plot it on some log scale. And one of the features that we see, that be it internet or scientific collaborations or protein interactions, we see that while the theoretical cutoff is somewhere here that I just highlighted in black, there were significant number of nodes which were having degrees much higher than the theoretical cutoff predicted from Poisson process, which clearly means that in Poisson process we miss something called as hubs, which are characteristic properties of most of the real world systems around. For example, let us take an example of a airport network. In airport network, you would expect that many of these airports are small, which just connect to one or two bigger cities. On the other hand, there would be certain hubs like New Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, that caters a lot of connections and act as disproportionately high degree nodes that and they play the role to bind this network together, and we call such disproportionately high degree nodes as hubs in the network. And these hubs are characteristic of most of the real world systems that we observe, which cannot be explained by Poisson process. So one thing is for sure, that many real world systems that we see around systems are not Poisson. If they are not Poisson, that means we cannot apply ER theory or random network theory just out of the box onto many real world systems. And to model these real world systems, we need to explore that what kind of generative processes, and here we are talking about network generative processes, or what kind of wiring can give rise to hubs and explain the deviation from Poisson process. Then another question arises from Poisson distribution. I should not say Poisson process, but Poisson distribution. Now another question arises, then why we are learning this Erdős-Rényi networks? Because Erdős-Rényi networks form an excellent example of null hypothesis against which we can compare, because they are easy to learn, they are based on some random rewiring, and you don't have to have a great understanding about structure of the network itself. You basically say that if I have n number of nodes and I know the average degree or the probability of connection, you can derive the entire characteristics or mathematical characteristics of a given network, and based on these ease of calculation that Ardoshreni networks have to offer, you can easily compare whether your network is random or not. If it is a random network by chance, then you say that now all the theories that have been developed for Ardoshreni networks, they apply to the particular network under consideration. And if it is not applicable, then you look for what can explain the generation of this network. Another important reason that why we compare these real world networks with Ardoshreni is the rich amount of literature that is available in the field of random graphs and Ardoshreni, given the history associated with that. In fact, many of the derivations and formulae that we use in network science, they find their origin in the literature of Ardoshreni networks, and that's why it's important to understand the context. And secondly, it is fun to know that why we are not connected randomly and what kind of phenomena gives rise to the modern world network. Now, just as a revision, if you forgot that what is a Poisson process, all you have to remember is that probability of f(x) less than equal to x can be written as 0 to x px dx. If px is coming from Poisson process, we can say that it is 0 to x e raised to power minus lambda to the power x upon x factorial and dx. And if you have to calculate what is the probability of x greater than equal to x, you can simply say that it is 1 minus 0 to x px dx. And if you are looking for upper limit of this x, you can say that let us assume that only one, at most one node is available with degrees greater than certain threshold. So the probability of x greater than x can be written as 1 upon n. So you can say that 1 upon n is equal to 1 minus 0 to x px dx. And if the exact form of px dx is known, as in this case, and if n is known, the only unknown parameter in this case, let us say that we write this in terms of k, we can write this as e raised to power average k raised to power degree of individual node upon k factorial dk, and we integrate it from 0 to k max. For ease, you can always discretize it, but now the only unknown here is k. So if you want to determine that what is the upper degree cutoff, if you solve this equation and replace this x by k max, 0 to k max, and in fact you can write this as a summation from 0 to k max, and the same formula here, you can actually determine that what is going to be the upper degree cutoff for this particular network. Now we will not go into the mathematical derivations of it, but the point here that I am trying to make is that Poisson distributions have an upper bound, and beyond which most of the networks cannot have hubs if they are coming from the Poisson process, but most of the real world systems, they exhibit hubs, and hence most of the real world systems are not Poisson. Now also let us also try to look into that in what regimes most of these real world systems are. So we know that based by looking at average k, if average k is equal to 1, we say that this is at critical point. If average k is equal to log of n, that means we are entering into the connected regime, and so on. So we looked into the various networks like internet, power grid, collaboration network, actor network, and protein network, and we say that their average degree is 6.34, which is much lesser than the log n. So this regime has to be supercritical. Why not subcritical? Because it is of course greater than 1, and hence it cannot be subcritical, and it is beyond the critical point. Similarly, you see that for all the networks under consideration, average k is definitely higher than 1, but lesser than log of n. This is lesser than log of n, this is lesser than log of n, other than the actor network, which makes it in a connected regime, and all others are supercritical. Now one question arises, what this supercriticality means in the context of networks. Supercriticality means that there would be a giant cluster which would have significant number of nodes in a network, plus there would be some isolated components. But this giant cluster do exist, it's not like everything is fragmented. but you can expect some fragmented clusters. Now, one question arises that since most of these networks, they fall in supercritical regime, does that mean that they can function without having full connectedness? So this does not hold true in real world. For example, we know that in the context of power grid of a nation, if power grid is not fully connected, then there may be a problem of some of the people not receiving power as they are not part of the grid. Hence the important question arises, can network be still be fully connected if it is in supercritical regime? And this observation cannot be explained by the theory that we have learned for the random graphs, that also present another evidence that the real world systems that we deal with, they may not be random and hence cannot be explained by random theory. So we need some special theories which we will cover in the next module. Same argument applies to the internet. That is, in case of internet, average k is much lesser than log of n. That means it is in a supercritical regime. And also we know that if your computer is disconnected from the internet or the World Wide Web, you would not be able to access pages, and hence you have to be part of the giant connected component, which again mean that internet is something beyond random networks, and we will talk about these topics in our subsequent modules. Also, when we look into the average distance, we learned in our last video that one of the key characteristics in terms of distances for random networks is that d, average d, can be expressed in the terms of log of n upon log of average k. Now, if you look at the observed average distances in the internet, www, email, power grid, we get some numbers like 6, 11, 5 and 18. And for the same network, since we know the number of nodes and average, so this would be log of n, average k, we work out these numbers and we see that actual observed distances are not far off from what we would get for a random network. Of course, there are certain deviations because these are actual observations and this is something derived purely from theory. But one thing that is interesting here is that these numbers are not far off, which means that real world systems, at least the system that I have listed here, they are actually closer to exhibit small world property because average distances are increasing in proportion to log of n in all these networks. However, we notice that many of these systems also exhibit ultra small world property. And again, I will repeat the same example. Example would be airports. There would be many airports would be positioned like Frankfurt or Dubai, so that the number of hops that you have to make to go from place A to place B across the globe, these number of hops are minimized. And what this ultra small world property means, that we will place these airports in a way that average distance become function of log of n rather than just log of n, making it further a small number. And that's what we have seen, that in many real world systems this distance is actually ultra small world. In next chapter, when we talk about scale free networks, we would be able to explain that how ultra small world property can be explained by looking into the scale free networks, which is a characteristic of many real world systems. Now, with this, we conclude our discussions on random networks. The key takeaways are, it's an exciting theory and we should understand these concepts, but we should keep our eyes open that what are these real world systems that we deal with, what can explain their origin, genesis, and their evolution, which would be our topics in upcoming module on scale free networks and network